Hare Krishna. Welcome to all the devotees in today's session of the Secrets of Bhagavad Gita. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today we are going to discuss Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text number 9 and 10. Let us start. Sanjaya Uvacha. These two verses were spoken by Sanjaya. Sanjaya is a disciple of Sri Vyasadeva and he is a chariot driver of King Dhritarashtra, and sometimes he acts as advisor to Maharaj Dhritarashtra. So he is the one who is overseeing the affairs of Mahabharata war from a distant place. Could he do that? Because he had some boon from sage Vyasadeva, his own spiritual master. So, by the due to the mercy of Sri Vyasadeva, he had the mystic power to see the affairs of Kurukshetra. So he is describing henceforward. These particular two verses are uh, spoken by Sanjaya. Sanjaya Uvacha Eva Muktva Hrishikesham Godakeshaf Parantapah Nayotsya iti Govindam Uktva Tushnim Babhuvaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Sanjaya said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. Purport. Dhritarashtra must have been very glad to understand that Arjuna was not going to fight and was instead leaving the battlefield for the begging profession. We discussed many verses right from the beginning how Dhritarashtra asked Sanjaya what happened on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and Sanjaya, in response to that, described how uh, different warriors from both the parties were situated, and Arjuna, being very enthusiastic to fight with Kauravas, urged Lord Shri Krishna, who was acting as his charioteer, to place his chariot between both the armies. And it so happened that Arjuna got bewildered and now he doesn't want to fight. So, upon hearing these words, Dhritarashtra, who had attachment to his own son Duryodhana, and because of that attachment, he was partial to Duryodhana. And though he was supposed to act as father towards Pandavas, he was not in favor of any compromise on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which was also a Dharma Kshetra or a field of Dharma, a pious field. So when Dhritarashtra heard these words that Arjuna is not going to fight, then he was very happy. He thought that now there is no need of fight, and even without fighting, Duryodhan could uh, remain as a king. So that was his intention. But we will see how the story unfolds. But Sanjaya disappointed him again and relating that Arjuna was competent to kill his enemies, Parantapaha. So here in the verse, Arjuna uses a particular word that is, Sanjaya uses a particular word that is Parantapaha. So Sanjaya is describing Arjuna as the chastiser of enemies. So indirectly he indicated to King Dhritarashtra that please do not think like that. Arjuna would not chastise his enemy. So he is quite capable of chastising his enemies, and it's just a matter of time. Uh, Arjuna would regain his own. Arjuna would regain his own position as a learned person, and he would definitely chastise his enemies. So that's the hidden meaning of addressing Arjuna as Parantapaha. Although Arjuna was for the time being overwhelmed with false grief due to family affection, he surrendered unto Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, as a disciple. This indicated that he would soon be free from the false lamentation resulting from family affection and would be enlightened with perfect knowledge of self realization or Krishna consciousness and would then surely fight. So that's the result of having a spiritual master in our life. So whenever we come across any difficulties and we are not able to solve them with our knowledge, then immediately we should seek shelter of our spiritual master, because uh, simply having knowledge about things will not help. Many times it happens that we have our own anarthas, our own attachments to something, and because of that, uh, somehow that we cannot come to a proper conclusion. So that is why we uh, need spiritual master in our life, personal spiritual master who can guide us. So those who claim that we can just simply take instructions from Prabhupada books, or we can hear someone's kathas, and we can take shikshas from various devotees. That's all right. That is secondary. Primary thing is that we should have someone like Lord Shri Krishna who can present before us as as Lord Shri Krishna is present before Arjuna. So either Lord Shri Krishna or his personal representative who we can relate to should be present in our eyes, and that is the meaning of guru disciple relationship. If there is no active relationship or active reciprocation between a spiritual master and disciple, then where is the question of simply having such relationship means there is a reciprocation between both the parties or whoever is involved in that relationship. So there has to be some reciprocation. So otherwise the word relationship has got no meaning. If you don't interact with your spiritual master in any uh, uh, in the present context, in present tense, then simply imagining that we are able to connect to our spiritual master somehow on a transcendental plane, which we are not, and simply imagining that we are actually receiving guidance from our spiritual master in dream or something somewhere, or just by reading his instruction, that could be a pure speculation, because who is there to correct us? Suppose if we are uh, speculating on our own that this is the instruction of our spiritual master or this is the right conclusion, we are simply on our own. It could be just our pure speculation. So uh, this kind of meaningless ideas are floating in devotee communities, and actually these ideas are everywhere from the creation of this world, because there are people with demonic mentality, and they want to avoid Krishna and his representative in all ways, in all possible ways. So they may have some uh, attraction towards spiritual life, but they are not sincere enough to accept a physical role of a guru or a spiritual master in life, because uh, that is Sanatan Parampara, and that is how relationship works. It does not need more than a common sense to understand that. But somehow there are many upasampradayas in the society, uh, and they also claim to chant Krishna's names, and somehow other they also want to attain Krishna prem, but they claim to receive instructions from their deceased guru, samacharya, who is no longer alive, and they think that that deceased Purva Acharya can give them initiation, and they can uh, act in that relationship, and they are getting uh, blessings from their spiritual master in the form of his instructions or in the form of his books, and that is sufficient. But actually, that is not correct. And then, what was the fault of Arjuna here? Arjuna also had learned many Vedic instructions in his Gurukula, and arguably he could have received instruction from any sages, or via some transcendental medium. But here we see that Arjuna uh, recognizes his weakness, and he understands that he alone cannot solve this problem, even with best of his knowledge. Even he thinks that even uh, uh, he is uh, has enough knowledge to even argue with Brihaspati, or even he has more knowledge than Brihaspati. But still, he thinks that he cannot solve his problems, and that is why he needs a guru. So, just receiving knowledge is not the only aspect of having guru disciple relationship, that we should clearly understand. That is a one aspect of guru disciple, guru shishya relationship. The another aspect is that guru personally guides the disciple, and whenever a disciple commits mistakes or is wrong, it's guru's duty to correct him and show him the right path. So that there has to be some active uh, reciprocation between guru and disciple. So that is the meaning of relationship or guru disciple relationship. So simply just receiving instructions on siddhantas, that's not enough. That only solves one part of the solution. But we have anarthas. So, like Arjuna, we may also get confused over uh, some practical aspects of life, and that's why we need a personal guru uh, who is above these anarthas, or who is fully Krishna conscious. Because only a fully Krishna conscious person can be above anarthas, or at least he can guide us without being influenced, without being influence of any anarthas, because a guru is a representative of guru parampara, uh, coming down from Lord Shri Krishna. So he's supposed to deliver the same message or same guidance as given by Lord Shri Krishna. So he would not say anything which is not perfect, or which is not less than perfect. It is always perfect. So there could be discussion between guru and disciple regarding understanding the issues or anything like that. However, that role of a guru, who who is a personal guide and who is present to see us and correct us, that is needed. Now, suppose if we imagine that we have some connection with our spiritual master, some purva acharyas, then how are we going to get corrected? How? What? It's a big question. We may be imagining that we are right, or maybe dreaming that somehow that I got this instruction in dream. Who is there to confirm this, confirm that that dream was true or wrong? There could be so many such fancy ideas. So that is why we need a guru. And none of the authentic sampradayas accept that there is no need of such a physical guru. There is always, we can say that it is mandatory to have guru. It's not an option. Okay. Next. The Dhritarashtra's joy would be frustrated since Arjuna would be enlightened by Krishna and would fight to the end. So, uh, Sanjay, because he was a disciple of Sri Vyasadeva, and he was Trikala Drashta, or he could uh, not only he could see present, but he could see past and future as well. So he was blessed by Sri Vyasadeva, his own spiritual master. So that is why um, he is using this word Parantam. And because Sanjay could clearly see that it's just a matter of time that Arjun would regain his own original position as a learned person, a person who is in knowledge and would act in knowledge, and what would be the result of that knowledge? He would fight with Kauravas and he would kill them. So that was the meaning. Next verse. तमोवाच ऋषिकेशः प्रहसन्निव भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्तमिदं वचः. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. Translation. O descendant of Bharata, at that time Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. Purport. The talk was going on between intimate friends, namely the Rishikesha and the Gudakesha. We have discussed the meaning of these two words, Rishikesha and Gudakesha. Rishikesha means who is the master of the senses, and Gudakesha means who who has conquered ignorance or who has conquered illusion. Or one of the meanings of the word Gudakesha is one who has conquered sleep. So the hidden meaning is that Rishikesh and Gudakesha both are qualified uh, in terms of their own qualification. Lord Shri Krishna is qualified as a spiritual master, and Arjuna is qualified as a perfect disciple. Uh, and that also indicates that how, uh, even though Arjuna was Gudakesha, he was not supposed to be um, conquered by ignorance or sleep. However, by the dictation of Rishikesh, because Lord Shri Krishna is Rishikesh and he controls everyone's senses. So, uh, in this particular scene, Lord Shri Krishna, in his capacity as Rishikesha, has controlled Arjuna's senses in such a way that even a Gudakesha Arjuna falls into illusion. So that's also insight we get here. Next, as friends, both of them were on the same level, but one of them voluntarily became a student of the other. Krishna was smiling because a friend had chosen to become a disciple. So that is the reason why Lord Shri Krishna was smiling after hearing these words from Arjuna. So uh, ideally, uh, of it's very difficult to conceive of a guru-disciple relationship between friends because there is no own reverence in that relationship. But it was so astonishing that Arjuna accepted that role as a submissive disciple and approached Lord Shri Krishna as a disciple and inquired from him about his well-being, his shreya. So, so that is the humility on the part of Arjuna, or we can say he was humble enough to understand his own weakness, and he was ready to correct himself, even to the extent that he was ready to accept his own friend Lord Shri Krishna as his spiritual master. So that is actually real humility. Humility does not mean just to speak very mild words or to always say, "Oh, yeah, so great, I'm so fallen." So that may serve as a uh, part of humble behavior. However, real humility is to always keep ourselves uh, in knowledge, and whenever we understand that we are uh, going, whenever we are not confident about real knowledge, we should accept our own humble position. So, why we need to understand this? Because many times it happens that when we are questioned by our followers, sometimes we may try to give some answers which may not be authentic. So there are instances in the society that many professional reciters of Bhagavatam or uh, so-called gurus, they give their verdict on different issues without any reference to Vedic authorities. Uh, or it can happen even within any authentic sampradayas. So, uh, the real humility constitutes that we should not speak anything which is not sanctioned or substantiated by Vedic scriptures, because uh, a guru or anyone who is sitting on Vyasasana is supposed to be representative of Sri Vyasadeva or Lord Shri Krishna. So a humble person would recognize that he does not know anything about this particular issue. So he would keep quiet about it. He would not some other make some word jugglery to impress his followers or his disciples. So, or he would not preach to the mass simply based on his own imagination of preaching. So we had to take guidance from our uh, Guru Parampara, our previous authorities, and from Lord Shri Krishna. We can't speak anything which is not mentioned in Vedic scriptures. And sometimes there is also idea that we may speak from the authentic scriptures, but we need not mention where we are, uh, where these thoughts are coming from. So basically, without mentioning any names of Vedic scriptures, we may simply speak from the uh, Vedic authorities and guide our followers or uh, guide the mass. But actually, the ill effect of such approach is that whenever we do not mention Vedic authorities, so one ill effect is that who is the reference of right and wrong? Is it we or someone else? So that is not clear. So the follower or the person who is receiving knowledge will not able to find the real frame of reference. So he may be impressed by some personality or some speaker, but whenever he come across any situation in life, again he would be in confusion. He would be in doubt. So that is one ill effect. Another ill effect is that uh, he may misunderstand whatever we say from the Vedic scriptures. So uh, there are possibilities that even within Vedic scriptures, there are many apparently contradicting views, and sometimes we need samanvaya or harmonization between all these uh, uh, apparently contradicting issues. So if you don't mention Vedic authorities that these are the sources I speak from, then there is a strong possibility that our followers or the mass who are receiving our speech may misunderstand our message, may misunderstand what knowledge is or what is the correct stand. So that's why it is very important for all the preachers of uh, dharma or all the preachers of God, we can say, that whenever we speak something, we must mention the references. And if you don't do that, then that would be considered as a sign of arrogance, or uh, it could also be seen as a sign of foolishness, because we do not know how to benefit others. On the name of helping others, we may end up harming them. So it's both arrogance and foolishness to not mention Vedic authorities in our speech. So, okay, let's continue ahead. As Lord of all, he is always in the superior position as the master of everyone. And yet the Lord agrees to be a friend, a son, or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. So Lord Shri Krishna is always uh, uh, he's always great. He's always in superior position. But to please his devotees, he may accept a role of a friend or he may accept a role of a servant. So it's all possible because in love, anything makes sense. So, uh, but to understand that love, we should first understand uh, uh, the fundamentals of what defines love. So we should clearly understand the definition of love from Vedic authorities. Only then we can understand that how everything makes sense in love. So let's not uh, extrapolate this sentence or some other apply it in our uh, ignorant life of so-called material love. So that's a different thing. Here we are talking about true love between Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, and Jivas, all living beings. So uh, I think time is up. Let us conclude this particular purport. But when he was accepted as a master, he at once assumed the role and talked with the disciple like the master, with gravity as it is required. So Lord Shri Krishna is very merciful towards his devotees, and to please his devotees, he can do anything. And we see that how Lord Shri Krishna, though he was acting in friendship with Arjuna, when Arjuna requested him to take up the role of a guru, he immediately accepted that. It appears that the talk between the master and the disciple was openly exchanged in the presence of both armies so that all were benefited. So the talks of Bhagavad Gita are not for any particular person, society, or community, but they are for all, and friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. So, Lord Shri Krishna, though he acted as guru for Arjuna, but he gave that message to everyone. So, both the parties could hear this message. So, it wasn't that only for Arjuna, uh, Lord Shri Krishna spoke the message of Bhagavad Gita. It was confidential in a sense that only a surrendered person can understand the message. However, it was not confidential as far as the physical aspect was concerned. So it was broadcasted everywhere, but only Arjun could understand the message because he was surrendered to Lord Shri Krishna. So Sharanagati or surrender to Lord Shri Krishna is the way to really imbibe the message of Bhagavad Gita. Mamekam Sharanam Praja. So when Arjuna accepted that position, he could understand what was his duty. So, so long we are not surrendered to Lord Shri Krishna, it is very difficult to get the message from Bhagavad Gita. So we may speak from Bhagavad Gita and pick up some points here and there, but to be actually able to present the message of Bhagavad Gita, we should be a surrender devotee like Arjuna. So only such a surrendered soul can understand the message of Bhagavad Gita and a disciplic succession coming down from Lord Shri Krishna. So uh, where to act as a perfect disciple, to act as a perfect guru or instructor to anyone. So that is also a lesson for all of us. So before speaking, we have to hear it properly from a proper source, and we should also learn how to present the message of Bhagavad Gita. So on simply knowing the things is not enough. We had to speak it as it was presented by Lord Shri Krishna and his representatives. So Lord Shri Krishna did not appease Arjuna for his uh, so-called good arguments. Actually, the very first thing he did was he chastised Arjuna for his foolishness. So uh, we have to see the nuances of this guru-disciple relationship. So it's not that a disciple is always meant to be chastised by guru, but we also get to know that how this relationship works. So there are uh, different flavors of between this guru-disciple relationship. Uh, Guru is also a friend to his disciples, and um, at the same time, he should be respected like God by his disciple. So that aspect is also there. But then when it comes to benefit disciple, then highest concern of a guru or spiritual master is to see that his disciple should get the message correctly. You should not misunderstand his message. So here the situation is very grave. It was a question of life and death, and it was not only related to Arjuna or Pandavas, but it was the question related to many lives, and that is why Lord Shri Krishna did not waste time. He immediately chastised Arjuna that you are actually speaking like a fool. Though it appears that you are speaking from Vedic authorities, but actually you are speaking like a fool because you did not uh, get the message as it is. So that is the lesson for us. And as a humble disciple, we should understand that whenever uh, we have been corrected by our superiors, our spiritual masters. We should accept that position and immediately correct ourselves. We should not try to defend ourselves unnecessarily. It's not that we cannot share our own understanding, but when it's a question of understanding how our superiors see us, we should place ourselves in a humble position, and at least theoretically, we should be we should not uh, uh, argue for that particular moment. Whenever our superiors, our gurus correct us, immediately we should take up the humble position and be ready to be chastised. And another things, while speaking or preaching or guiding anyone, whenever we uh, recognize that we do not know this particular aspect, we should simply accept uh, our inability or insufficient knowledge, and clearly mention it. So we should not somehow other uh, create some word jugglery to simply impress our disciples or our some followers or so-called media. So let us not do that, because that does not constitute real humility. Humility means to be always to always place ourselves under the uh, uh, under Vedic authorities. So, and to not mention Vedic authorities, that would be the violation of this principle of humility, because we do not know anything on our own. Who we are, what we are, to know anything of this material world. Whatever we know, it was the blessings from the Vedic scriptures. So how can we not mention these Vedic scriptures in our speech? So that's us. That's again sadachar. So even though we want to help others, but we should also understand how we can help others. Sometimes devotees have uh, made up their mind that they would not mention Lord Shri Krishna, or they would not mention anything from Vedic scriptures, just to get more followers or just to make them easy. But actually, that is not the correct approach. Actually, by our with all best intentions, we are actually misleading them. I already mentioned the faults of not representing the message without mentioning Vedic scriptures. So we should reflect over these faults, and we should desist from uh, not from such approach. We should, as a humble position, we should always mention Vedic authorities whatever we speak, and when we don't know anything about something, we should simply accept it. That will be real humility. Okay, I would end here. वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. श्रीमद् भगवद गीता यज्ञ की जय. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. हरे कृष्ण.